Today's episode of the Wildcard Podcast is brought to you by the all-new edible Mr. Potato Head.
Hi, everybody.
Did you say edible?
The all-new edible Mr. Potato Head. It's the Mr. Potato Head you knew and loved as a kid.
Aw, thanks, Jared.
Don't thank him yet.
With all the removable and replaceable parts, you need to change his appearance and make him anyone you want him to be.
You can take off my legs and put glasses on me. Look, I'm FDR.
Oh, bro.
But the best thing about the all-new edible Mr. Potato Head?
What's that, Jared?
Yeah, what's that, Jared?
You can eat him!
What?
That's right! You can eat him! If you're boring, you can just chuck him in the oven.
But it burns!
Can you make fries out of him?
I'm glad you asked. Yes, go ahead, take a slice.
He's delicious, even raw.
You can julienne Mr. Potato Head.
Submerge him in oil.
No, please!
Cover him in hot nacho cheese.
I can't feel anything!
Then you can eat him alive!
The pumped palate!
The all-new edible Mr. Potato Head. Entertaining and tasty.
You're delicious, Mr. Potato Head.
I hope you rot in hell. Welcome to the Wildcard Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Eaton, and my co-pilots on this journey to wherever are my good friends, Jeff Curtis.
Salute.
And every morning in the mine, they could see him arrive. He stood 6'6" and weighed 245, kind of broad in the shoulder and narrow in the hip, and everybody knew he didn't give no lip to Big Ron Blair.
Big Ron.
Ron Blair.
Big bad Ron.
I love that song. That's Jimmy Dean.
Jimmy
Dean? Yeah,
Remember
I love
said
that song.
breakfast reference earlier?
Yes, you did. We had breakfast this morning, and Jared
great.
made a reference towards breakfast and my nickname. And
Yeah.
Now, was he making sausages at this period as well as music, or was the sausage after the music started to
I think
fade?
he was making sausage as he was doing the music. Like
I
he
think
was
it
playing the
simultaneously.
fiddle and then doing the sausage crank with his foot. And
There
then
you
he
go.
integrated that sound into the song, so
the
it was like
grittiness. Yeah.
it was like the percussion part
absolutely.
of his music.
Then he had a
and
delicious
sausage.
snack when his song was when he's
There you go.
recording.
One of his old ladies
Big
would
bad
cook it up
Ron.
and then feed it to him while he's on the Tennessee flat top box there.
Speaking of delicious snacks, the Wildcard Podcast. We're here to be a delicious snack for your ears.
Absolutely.
As
And
you
Ron,
could tell from our commercial.
Absolutely. So, Ron, will you inform the new listeners what this podcast is all about?
There's 20 of them, man.
That's
20, man. We've got to have at least 22 by now.
I don't know that we do.
Well, maybe. 20 and a half.
We may be down to 18.
This show, more than anything, today especially, is about hair. Give me a head with hair, long, beautiful hair, streaming, gleaming, shining, flaxen, waxing.
Or,
give me down to their hair,
in this case,
shoulder length longer.
It's about the lack of hair.
The lack of hair.
Because
Bowling ball sitting.
Ron is currently bebalded.
He's Daddy Warbucks up.
Like,
I think you should take taking the eyebrows too.
I probably should
Just
have.
taking it all.
When they're doing this on Facebook, they're saying, "Can I keep the mustache?" And I said, "No, the mustache."
Like, I've played video games where I look like the genie character.
Okay.
Like the
Yeah.
completely bald
Yeah.
mage genie
There you
character.
go.
That's me.
So there you go. That's what this podcast is all
A
about.
big fat floating head
Ron's lack
on
of
a
hair.
red backdrop. That's me.
So Jeff, this week, I've noticed you on Facebook. You were challenged to do something. Is that correct? You want
That
to share
was
what that's
challenged.
what were you challenged to do?
There's this 10 albums in 10 days, no explanation thing that's
Right.
been going around, and I was challenged twice before I took it on in any form.
Before you gave in. I noticed though that either today or yesterday you chose a Sting album.
That's
And
today.
what was on that album? Because I not discovered Sting. Obviously, growing up in the 80s, you knew who Sting was, but I really got a liking to him because of The Last Ship. And then so I started listening to Sting more.
Discography.
And so during the 80s, after the post-Police era, I really started to dig his work.
Well, the album I posted today, the something of the Blue Turtle, I forget the title of it off the top of my head.
Voyage.
The Voyage of
No,
the
it's
Blue
not
Turtle.
the Voyage. It's
the Journey of the Blue Turtle.
the
The Diet of the
song.
Blue Turtle.
Well, I'll tell you what it
The
is.
dietary
Escapades
restrictions
of
of
the
the
Blue
Blue Turtle, the escapades, the romps of the Blue Turtle.
If you will.
Oh,
Of
brother.
Mr. Blue Turtle. We've written a children's book.
Yeah.
We've written something.
Yertle was this blue turtle.
The dreams of the blue turtle.
The dreams of the. Is that what were some of the singles on that?
Well, it was his first solo album after the Police.
Yeah,
when he left the Police.
Fortress
after he got out.
Fortress Around My Heart is from that.
I love that one.
If You Love Someone, Set Them Free is off of that one.
Is Message in a Bottle in that one? Or
no,
that's
Police.
That's Police.
Oh, was that Police?
That's Police.
I love Message in a Bottle.
But so when I accepted this challenge, I changed the rules because
that's what Jeff does.
Yeah,
it's what I do. And 10 favorite or 10 albums that I listen to, or 10 favorite. That's not nearly as meaningful to me as listening to 10 albums that have had the most influence musically on me.
And I like that. I like that better, I think. It should be the ones that influence you as an artist.
Right. And, since I'm a composer, there's lots of albums that I like that aren't an influence, but there's certain things that are an influence. And the whole thing about no explanation, I got to explain these. There's no point in putting these down if I don't
Yeah, to me, that's the most interesting part. I want to know why this is your favorite. Why do you enjoy this?
Right.
I don't care what you like. I care why you like it.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So, when Sting came out with The Dreams of the Blue Turtle, I was at Berkeley. I just finished my second year at Berkeley. And Berkeley I don't know what it is now, but at the time I was there, it was a big jazz school. I mean, it had rock and other pop stuff in it, but its big influence was jazz. And what The Dreams of the Blue Turtle was and is Sting's jazz influence into his own pop and rock music. When he was doing The Police, they started out as a punk band, and it grew from punk. It's more than punk, but it started out with punk as its model for the kind of artistic direction it was going with the energy of that kind of music. But Sting had been a jazz musician. He'd been a jazz bass player before he was in the Police.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. That's very cool.
And so he had all these jazz influences that then when he went to set about doing his own solo music, he brought that in, especially in his first album and his first and second album. After that, his music just became his music.
Yeah.
But there was a clear artistic difference between his first solo album and anything the Police had done.
Yeah.
And it was this amazing melding of pop and rock and jazz with all these complex jazz chords. And he brought in the backing band that he brought in were jazz players. These were jazz players that were playing this music. Ranford.
So were you on this? Because I know you're a jazz bebop legend.
No, I'm not on it.
Right. Jazz bebop legend.
Ranford Marcellus was playing saxophone on this.
No shit.
Right, and so it's an incredible group. It's an incredible band, and it's an incredible album, and it's got incredible songs on it. And so I chose it as one of my influences because A, it is, and B, because it's kind of the complexity of the chords and the way that affects the music has been a constant in my music ever since I was going to Berkeley.
Yeah.
And this kind of cemented kind of that, or helped me visualize that sound even more. I guess
that's very cool.
So the reason I brought this up is because our favorite question this week, I kind of twisted off of this game that's been going around Facebook.
Okay.
So I want you to name, and this is not a favorites or a top 5 of anything. It's just just technically a favorite because it's the favorite category.
Right.
Favorite evocative songs. So a
Evocative
song
songs.
that means something to you, not just that you like the music or a melody or it's catchy, but it like emotionally connects with you, or maybe from your childhood or something that is like you've gone back to. Maybe you guys don't have that, but I've got several songs that like have things like. So for example, one that's a little more lighthearted is I remember the first song that played on the radio when I was driving alone after I got my license.
Oh, really?
Like the very first song that played was "Shake Your Tail Feather" by P. Diddy, Murphy Lee, and Nelly. This was a song from the Bad Boys 2 soundtrack, and it was on the radio. And so like that song it's a stupid song about shaking your butt, but it will always to me symbolize like the freedom of finally being able to go on my own somewhere.
Was it at all a remake of the Ray Charles Soul?
I have no
Come on,
idea.
baby, let me see you shake your tail feather.
No.
It was in Blues Brothers. Okay.
No, it's not that.
Well, then fuck those guys.
Okay.
Fuck those guys.
So that song is not a good song. Like that song is not a
legend.
good song, but it means something to me.
Right.
Like that
Yeah,
song,
of course.
when I hear it, it just brings back it lifts me a bit,
Yeah.
even though it's a stupid song.
Jimmy Buffett's Pirate Looks at 40, I used to sing that to Mackenzie as a lullaby every night. It was one of my favorite songs anyway.
Yeah.
I loved Jimmy Buffett's songs, by heart, and I
Okay.
would listen to that album repeatedly. But that song in particular...
When you hear it, it kind of takes you back to that father-daughter kind of...
Exactly. Despite its, I've done a bit of smuggling, run my share of grass, made enough money to buy Miami, but I pissed it away so fast. It didn't matter. It's a pretty song.
Yeah.
The lyrics didn't matter. The kid was asleep.
Tom Petty's "I'm Free." I remember singing that song with great joy after I quit my job at Fire Parking Garage.
Yeah.
As I was crossing the Christian Science Center's esplanade, or by their reflection pond, and on my way home from work, I'm dancing "I'm Free."
Another one for me is from the album Moulin Rouge, the movie musical.
Yeah.
It's the actual closing credits song. So it's not one that's ever sung in
Yeah.
the show. It's the closing credits. It's like 10 minutes long, and it's just instrumentation. And it's got a lot of percussion and a lot of strings and a lot of piano. And for some reason, when I kind of discovered it after high school, it's just always been a song I could go to and relax.
Yeah.
It's called Bolero, is the name of this closing credits. And
Oh, it's Bolero?
well, I don't know. When I've looked up Bolero, I think it's come up with many different things. I don't know what
okay,
Bolero
okay.
translates to.
Yeah.
I guess there are a lot of versions of it.
Well, there's Ravel's Bolero, which is the most famous version of it, I would think.
It could be the same kind of piece of music. When I've gone to other ones, it hasn't
I have
done
to
for me
find
what
it
those
now.
do.
I have to find Bolero for all of you.
So that one is something that I remember the times when I was really stressed out and I could pull that up and it was just something that would really soothe me. This is what this one sounds like.
Well, that's different from
Yeah,
from the
that's
one-
why I thought Bolero might translate to something that's been used a bit.
by Ravel. I used to sing when I was courting Michelle. I used to sing Desperado to her all the
yeah.
time, and that was like my love song to her.
Desperado's your love song.
And here's something interesting talking about striking a chord with you. When I was looking for bow music for Night of the Living Dead, I went with Dance Macabre by Camille Saint-Saëns, and I adored that piece of music. Only to find out later that I think the reason I have such an attachment to it is I had a Halloween record when I was a kid, and they used to take spooky classical music tunes and make songs with it, like children's songs with it. And one of them was Dance
that
Macabre
tune, yeah.
that she used, and that really appealed to me. I feel the same way when I listen to, or when I watch Dancing Skeletons, the old Disney.
Okay.
They use the Hungarian dance in that, which I love.
Probably the one that most emotionally connects with me is actually when I get asked my favorite song. That's not a question most people answer as favorite song, but I always pride myself on being able to answer pretty much any favorite question at any time.
Sure.
And so my answer is Everclear is the band, and the song is called Wonderful. Early 2000s.
Of course.
And coming from a broken
Father
home.
of mine.
Well, that's the
I
right
love that
band,
song.
wrong song.
Oh, was that not?
That's the right band. That is Everclear, but it's not the song Wonderful. So the song Wonderful is the one that just kind of
Wonderful.
hit me with being in a broken home and sometimes not wanting to go home from school. That still resonated in my heart as something that whenever I would hear it, would be like, okay, I'm not alone. There are other people who are struggling with this too.
Right.
So that's one that emotionally meant a lot to me.
That was a big theme through Everclear's because he
Songs of an
those
American
songs,
Dream.
those biographical
Yeah,
songs
Oh,
that
yeah.
happened to him with the broken home.
And
living up.
there are a lot of more fun songs, but that album in particular was one, especially that song Wonderful, was one that always emotionally connected with me quite a bit.
Yeah, this is Bolero by Ravel. It's the one most people know, that kind of tune. I also, the first, 8 notes of Scheherazade I could listen to on repeat over and over again. This is the violin
first 8
solo.
notes.
What's that beautiful
If I'm
violin
going to do
solo
that,
there
then
at
let's
the
just listen to
beginning?
the Donkey Kong aquatic music.
Oh, I've listened to that going to sleep. That's amazing music
Yeah.
right there. It's soothing. And the wintertime music in the Donkey Kong Country games.
Yeah, all of it.
Very
Honestly,
nice.
all of it's pretty darn good.
Yeah, Donkey Kong Country games are a masterpiece.
Jeff,
undoubtedly.
any other ones before we close this favorite evocative song section?
Well, there was an Amy Grant song that I can't remember the name of that I used to listen to all the time in college back in my Christian days.
Was it the parking? It wasn't the parking lot song. They paved Paradise and put up a
No,
parking
that's not
lot.
Amy
Amy
Grant.
Grant.
Amy
That's
Grant.
not, who did that one?
That is
Quite a few people have done that one.
a lot of people have done that.
I'm fucking wrong all
But,
day then.
Well, I know it from Dave Matthews, but I know he didn't do it initially.
No, it was a woman a famous woman in the 60s and 70s.
El Shaddai is one of my favorite Amy Grant songs.
So it's possible that Amy Grant did a version of that song.
No.
Seems unlikely.
at all?
As a Christian artist, that's
She's
not...
a Christian artist.
She was on mainstream charts.
She was, and because she switched over to mainstream stuff, but she wasn't doing covers. She was still doing.
That's what Love Is
stuff.
For. That's another good Amy Grant song.
Yeah, it is good Amy Grant. This was an album from like 1982. I don't remember the name. I've got the record out in my shed, but I don't have a record player, so I can't play records anymore. But
That's what
I don't remember the
Love
name
Is
of it.
For.
But it was a simple song that's mostly guitar, and I found it very soothing. I don't remember the song. It's been 20 years or longer since I've listened to the song. But if I heard it now, I would recognize it immediately. There are other songs like one of my next records that I'm going to post is Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh yeah.
And I've said this before. I don't think Jesus Christ Superstar actually works as a stage production very
don't
well.
enjoy it.
You don't
I
think
really
so?
don't enjoy it.
No. I've never seen it. I've only been in it, and I enjoyed performing.
I enjoyed some of the performances in that.
It's great songs. But I think it's tied to the 70s when it was created, and when you try to take it out of that or restage it in some ways that's not that, it loses everything that made it such an amazing thing.
Well, it's timely.
It's timely. And so there was musicals before I saw, and again, I saw Jesus Christ Superstar for the first time on TV. And there's musicals, there's what I thought musicals were before that, and then there was musicals after that. And it changed, that album changed.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
We have an actual commercial
We're
going.
getting paid to run commercials. Yeah, it happens.
But so that album, changed the whole way that I approached and looked at musicals. But there's one song in it that I think has, I don't know. I think it is, to me, is like the ultimate idea of singing and dialogue and drama all combined.
Yeah.
And that's the song where you have Jesus before Pilate, because it's so.
Is it the Pilate song?
No.
No.
It's when he's on trial before Pilate, and it's going, you've got music going. I can't think of music while their music's going.
Are you aware of what song I have going on? It's Amy Grant singing "Big Yellow Taxi." Paved paradise, put up a parking lot. I'm not wrong.
Okay, you're not wrong.
Stop telling me I'm wrong. I was wrong about the other thing though.
It's called Trial Before Pilate?
Yeah,
There's a song called Trial Before Pilate.
That would be it then.
Yeah.
But
how does it go?
But the
Jared,
thing
how
is,
does it go?
it's not a simple song where there's verse, chorus, verse, chorus. What it is it's drama. Right. This is it.
But that's Pilate singing.
Right. But it's not just Pilate singing.
Well, it's a 6-minute song.
Yeah, it's everybody singing, right?
Yeah, it's everybody singing. But see, this is not a song. This is drama being sung.
If I were to do this show again, Pilate is the role I'd want.
Yeah,
next time around, I want that role.
But you're not listening to my explanation.
No,
you're
go
talking.
Ahead, go ahead.
What I love about the song and
Yeah.
how that specific song has influenced everything that I've ever written since musically is that it is not a song. I mean, it's a song, but it's not a song. It's music, but what it is it's sung, it's drama and music. It's dialogue being sung,
right?
But it's not recitative, which is just people you taking words and singing it. Like I could be singing right now, and this is recitative because I'm just making melodies while I'm singing words. But that is the pinnacle of the connection of music, singing, drama, opera, and dialogue all in one place, because it's the combination of all those. It's not just a song. You don't
sing that.
You don't walk away. Yeah, you can't walk away from the show singing it.
Right.
But when you're there, it's like when it's like all your senses are involved. I mean, it's all auditory, but it's all your senses are involved.
Captivated by it.
Right.
And that to me is the perfect musical.
Yeah.
That one scene is the perfect musical. I love Jesus Christ Superstar. If that was the only thing in it, I would love Jesus Christ Superstar. Because
Have you seen Jekyll and Hyde?
I have.
Okay, because that's what when you were talking about that music and that's kind of it brought me back to Jekyll and Hyde, which is one I love in general. But
have you listened to Jesus Christ Superstar?
No, you were talking about that the other day.
Rehearsal the other day. Oh, it's great.
And I mean, there's other things I love about Jesus Christ Superstar, and I can listen to the music all the time.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple productions of the show, and I've never thought that really worked very well. But on stage, it barely works as a movie. But it only works, and it only works because people know the story that it's
right. It's
because
familiar.
There's not enough connective tissue between each of these songs for a regular show. Ron's playing with his cube
all
of ice.
melded together. I need to separate it.
But so it's because everybody knows
the worst sound.
Because everybody knows the story is the only reason the show works. But anyway, that's mine.
It's presented very canonical in nature.
Yeah.
As being a Catholic, we would do that repeat where we're like beat him, or whatever you say, and we all, as a congregation, say
Chant that.
these things. We're the people, and the priest is Jesus, and from a deacon is Pilate or something. It's the Passion Play that they do every Easter.
Yeah.
All right, it's my turn.
We've
got a Jared episode, and I've got a couple questions as we get started today.
Is it a Jared episode or a Jared episode?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So it is definitely one of those two things. My question for you is: what is your horoscope? What is your sign?
My sign?
What is your
What's your sign?
I'm a Scorpio.
I'm a Leo. As if that weren't obvious.
Okay. So, Jeff, you and I are both water signs. Did you know that?
I did not.
So, we are exceptionally emotional and ultra sensitive, apparently.
Okay, I could buy that.
We are highly
Totally
intuitive, and they can be mysterious as the ocean itself. Water signs love profound conversations and intimacy. They rarely do anything openly and are always there to support their loved ones. That's what. That's what
sounds like you guys.
I don't know about ultra sensitive for me.
Now tell me what kind of asshole a
Well,
Leo
I mean,
is.
obviously, if Jeff and I are water, what is Ron?
Fire.
Ron is a fire sign.
I'm a fire sign, totally.
Which tend to be passionate, dynamic, and temperamental. They get they get angry quickly, but also forgive easily. Is that true of you, Ron?
It's half true. I do not forgive easily.
Yeah.
I hold grudges for a long time.
They are adventurers with immense energy. They are physically very strong and are a source of inspiration for others.
Oh.
Intelligent, self-aware, creative, and idealistic people, always ready for action.
Wow, it pegged me except for easily forget.
And that's the thing about whenever you read.
Other than that one little tiny thing, yeah it does.
So do you guys ever give any credence to astrology?
No.
Do you check your horoscopes if you have a newspaper in front of you?
No.
Oh, okay, good for you. I usually do. I don't believe it, but I find it entertaining.
I find it much like you would any psychic thing where I can say, I'm seeing the letter S, which is the most commonly used. Right. You have a relative named Stephen. I'm seeing Stephen, Stacy, Susan, Sarah.
Yeah.
It's somebody. Your grandmother was your grandmother. It's that easy.
Yeah.
And they'll find if they want.
He shall be Cleavon.
And most of them want to believe that you have this ability, and so they're like, "Oh my God, my third cousin's name was Susan."
Had a dog.
And then you give them more information,
Sarah.
and so that they have
and
more
that's
to go
exactly
with.
it. You just keep rolling with it. It's so easy to be a charlatan.
But everything is so generic. To say someone is emotional is like, well, yeah, a lot of people. Because ours said we were exceptionally emotional, but it said you were passionate, dynamic, and temperamental. Well, anger is an emotion. Like, I mean,
it's the same thing, right?
It's just different wording
Yeah.
so that it seems like it's open. So astrology is something I used to talk to my kids about when I'm talking about pseudoscience.
Yeah, well,
something that sounds very scientific and is in no way scientific at all.
Right.
So this episode of the Walk Hard Podcast is
gonna
not about
sound scientific.
Is
but
not
won't be
about
scientific at all.
astrology.
Astrology is very much
This episode of the podcast
non-science, but
is not about astrology.
it's like so much of what the pagan religions did end up in not even soft science, the pseudoscience, like you're talking about.
So the actual question of this podcast, the real question that goes in the topic.
Yes.
What serial killer is most closely linked with astrology?
Oh, the Zodiac Killer.
The Zodiac Killer!
Did you know there were two of them? There's the famous one in Los Angeles. Are there three?
Well, there were two
one in New York
copycats,
or
and one in
the East
Japan
Coast.
as well. One in Japan as well.
I wasn't aware of the one in Japan.
Oh, I've read
Look at
so
that.
much. The last night I was in a.
Did you
I
watch
was
the
in a
Jake
rabbit hole.
Gyllenhaal
I
movie
did.
last night?
You know I like it. I know you don't.
Oh yeah, it's not that I don't like it. It didn't do for me what I wanted it to do for me. Although John Carroll Lynch is brilliant. He's a brilliant performer.
So here's the thing about that movie for me, the Zodiac movie, is it scares me.
Is it that it could really happen?
No, that it did really happen.
Well, that it did,
in a way that other movies don't. And the atmosphere and the tension, like, I was deeply unsettled the first time I watched that. And even every time I go back to it, I get goosebumps over again.
Well,
like, I'm home alone, and that. But like, you put Friday the 13th or Halloween on, and I'm like, man, this is entertaining.
Right.
But I watch Zodiac, and I get chills.
And let's reiterate, though, it's not what really happened; it's what could have really happened based on the evidence that.
A lot of what Jake
been,
Gyllenhaal as Robert Graysmith is doing is. But
that would be true.
The actual murders you watch.
Yeah.
Are confirmed. Like, this is what happened. And that's the thing, is how those are shot is so unsettling to me.
Yeah.
And then some of the creepy moments, the tension that the director enlists from that also work very well. So what do you guys know about the Zodiac Killer?
Not much. I know he used a gun mostly, right?
Somewhat, yeah. There were definitely guns used.
In the 70s?
It's actually 60s, right into the 60s, early 70s.
I know they never caught him. They can't confirm who it was.
Yep.
They have suspicions, but just like Jack the Ripper, they don't know who this person is.
Yeah.
Much like the talented Sundown Killer, they don't know who. Yeah.
Yep, stopped. So the Zodiac Killer, or Zodiac, was a serial killer who operated in Northern California from at least the late 1960s to the early 70s.
Which was a hotbed for serial killers back in those years.
And it's all in California. There was some things, because he claimed a lot of murders that could not be attributed to him.
Yeah.
And so I found a lot of websites who were talking about victims that could have been Zodiac victims but are not confirmed.
Yeah.
But the Zodiac murdered victims in Benicia, Vallejo, Lake Berryessa, and San Francisco between December 1968 and October 1969. 4 men and 3 women between the ages of 16 and 29 were targeted.
Well, it was all women,
confirmed.
right?
No. 4 men and 3 women.
Oh, 4 men and 3 women. I'm sorry.
More men were targeted than women. I use the word targeted, though. We'll come back to that later.
Yeah.
The killer originated the name Zodiac in a series of taunting letters sent to the local Bay Area press. These letters included 4 cryptograms, or ciphers. Of the 4 cryptograms sent, only 1 has been definitively solved.
Wow. So he's a pretty clever guy.
Yeah, maybe they're crazy
perhaps.
And they're not lucid, and so they can't
The
be.
first one has a
make no
pattern
sense.
that was uncovered.
Yeah.
Do the other ones have patterns that were not uncovered? Perhaps. Or perhaps it was just the ravings of a lunatic in some sort of thing that made sense to them, but unless you know everything they know, it wouldn't make any sense.
Isn't there a sketch of him with, like, antennae where it's like...
I didn't see that. I saw quite a few sketches, but I didn't see anything
I may have been thinking of some other comedy film that has nothing to do with this
well, there you go.
It may have been This is Spinal Tap, where she does the Zodiac...
You're thinking of Mantis from Guardians of the Galaxy.
It may have been Mantis.
Suspects have been named by law enforcement and amateur investigators, but no conclusive evidence has ever surfaced. The San Francisco Police Department marked the case inactive in April 2004, but reopened it at some point prior to March 2007. The case also remains open in the city of Vallejo, as well as Napa County and Solano County. The California Department of Justice has maintained an open case file on the Zodiac murders since 1969. Although the Zodiac claimed 37 murders in letters to newspapers, investigators agree on only 7 confirmed victims. So we're going to talk about those incidents. And I mentioned you guys I had pictures.
Right.
The pictures are the letters.
Okay.
And so I can read those. They get kind of dark.
Or you can have me read them in a character voice.
No. Definitely that would not make it any better.
All right.
The question is,
I don't want to make it better.
Do you want me to? I mean, when we get to those, do you care if I read them, or do you think that would be too dark?
Read them out, yo.
I don't know. We'll see. When we get there, we'll find out.
So we're gonna kind of
go too dark for me.
We're gonna go timeline, of the victims and kind of go in order. There were some that were attributed to him that are earlier than this. That some people have attributed to him, but they're not confirmed. The first murders widely attributed to the Zodiac Killer were the shootings of high school students Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday on Lake Herman Road, just inside Benicia city limits. The couple were on their first date and planned to attend a Christmas concert at Hogan High School, about 3 blocks from Jensen's home. The couple instead visited a friend before stopping at a local restaurant and then driving out on Lake Herman Road. Jensen and Faraday had promised Betty Lou's parents they'd be home by 11 p.m. Shortly after that time, passing motorists saw Faraday's Rambler and its occupants parked at a lover's lane spot along Lake Herman Road in Benicia, California. Moments later, another driver noticed 2 bodies on the side of the road. Benicia police and others responded to the scene and discovered Betty Lou dead with 5 bullet wounds in her back. David was found next to the Rambler with a bullet wound in his head, still breathing but near death.
He didn't make it, did he?
He did not.
No, I didn't.
Some do later, but he did not make it.
Yeah, I remember there were more than one survivors.
Two males survived the attacks. Bullet holes in the car's roof and back window indicate the killer may have fired warning shots to force the victims out of the vehicle. Shell casings recovered at the crime scene identified ammunition as Winchester
Well,
Western.
what do you know?
Super X copper coated. Ballistic evidence indicated the killer used a .22 caliber, possibly a J.C. Higgins Model 80 semi-automatic pistol. At the time, investigators believed the two teenagers were likely random targets killed by a stranger for unknown reasons.
A .22 caliber? Well, that's a baby gun.
The Solano
It's
County...
a tiny bullet.
Yeah, well, he also...
Well, that's the one that bounces around in you, too. It doesn't blow the hole
he
through,
also
and so
fired...
it's even more
you know,
dangerous.
she had, 5 bullet wounds, so...
Yeah.
he fired
No,
quite
there
a
was
few,
no,
yeah.
there was no hope. You can't survive that.
The Solano County Sheriff's Department investigated the crime, but no leads developed. Now, what I'm going to tell you now is, like, Robert Graysmith, the Jake Gyllenhaal character from the movie, kind of his work looking back on it, because he was obsessed with this case.
He was a reporter, wasn't he?
But he was a cartoonist.
Cartoonist,
that worked
okay.
for a newspaper that got the... I think he worked for the Chronicle, if I recall. Utilizing available forensics data, Graysmith postulated that another car pulled into the turnout just prior to 11 p.m. and parked beside the couple. The killer apparently exited the second car and walked toward the Rambler, possibly ordering the couple out of the Rambler. Jensen appeared to have exited the car first, yet when Faraday was halfway out, the killer apparently shot Faraday in the head. Fleeing from the killer, Jensen was gunned down 28 feet from the car with 5 shots through her back. The killer then drove off.
And so she was running. That's why
She was so far
it
off
was
the vehicle.
several bullets through the back.
Yeah, so that was December 1968. Blue Rock Springs, July 4th, 1969. 22-year-old Darlene Farron was a wife, mother, and a popular waitress at a Vallejo restaurant. On the night of July 4th, just before midnight, she picked up Michael Majo and stopped her Corvair in the parking lot of Blue Rock Springs Park. While the couple sat in Farron's car, a second car drove into the lot and parked alongside them, but almost immediately drove away. I would be peeing my pants. Like, that kind of thing.
Yeah, after the
freaks
first
me
murder,
out.
well, you
This,
think
again,
you wouldn't...
there's no connection. There is no serial killer at that point in time. That
Well,
was
that's
just
true.
an isolated incident. So there, she's married.
Yeah.
She's got a guy in the car with her. It's nighttime, just before midnight. And they're parked, and then another car pulls up beside them.
Right.
Doesn't do anything, and then just pulls out. Returning about 10 minutes later, the second car parked beside them. The driver of the second car then exited the vehicle and approached the passenger side door of Farron's car carrying a flashlight and a 9mm Luger. The killer directed the flashlight into Majo's and Farron's eyes before shooting at them, firing 5 times. Both victims were hit, and several bullets had passed through Majo and into Farron.
Yeah.
The killer walked away from the car, but upon hearing Majo's moaning, returned and shot each victim twice more before driving off.
Holy cow. Well,
Wow.
he wanted to make sure he got him.
So that was just before midnight on July 4th.
That's a different weapon, though.
That is.
Well, it's interesting that he would
That's
use a 9mm, one that would go through, that would puncture the, puncture the flesh, leave an exit wound,
Yeah.
and go through the other one where it was using a 22
20.
before. Is it possible that those two aren't related?
Well, we'll get into it. So that was midnight, 12:40 a.m. So about 40 minutes later. We don't exactly know when the attacks happened. It was
Right.
around midnight. On July 5th, a man phoned the Vallejo Police Department to report and claim responsibility for the attack. According to the police dispatcher, the caller spoke in a low, monotonous voice, saying, "I want to report a murder. If you will go 1 mile east on Columbus Parkway, you will find kids in a brown car. They were shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye." The police traced the call to a phone booth at a gas station at Springs Road and Tuolumne. I have no idea how to pronounce this word. You want to give that one a shot?
Chalumi.
Okay, Tuolumne. About 3/10 of a mile from Farron's home, and only a few blocks from the Vallejo Police Department. But it was
It's ballsy.
But it was like 20 miles from the crime scene. So
Right.
he left the crime scene and gotten close to her family and the police when he made the call. Farron was pronounced dead. Darlene was pronounced dead at the hospital. Majo survived the attack despite being shot in the face, neck, and chest.
God damn.
Wow.
He described his attacker as 26 to 30 years old, 195 to 200 pounds, or possibly even more, 5'8" white male with short, light brown, curly hair.
Bigger fella. Looks just like John
5'8",
Carroll Lynch.
5'8", though,
Yeah, he's a little shorter.
but bigger.
Right, a big old fella.
On August 1st, 1969, so less than a month
Like a
later.
couple weeks later,
Yeah,
yeah.
a couple weeks later. 3 letters prepared by the killer were received at the Vallejo Times-Herald, the San Francisco Chronicle, and the San Francisco Examiner.
Now, which one did Jake Gyllenhaal's character work
I
at?
believe he worked for the Chronicle. I could be wrong.
So it
about
was
that.
one of those papers?
It was one of those 3,
Yeah,
yes, because
okay.
the cipher was received while he was there.
Gotcha.
The Chronicle published its third of the cryptogram on page 4 of the next day's edition. An article printed alongside the code quoted Vallejo Police Chief Jack E. Stiltz as saying, "We're not satisfied that the letter was written by the murderer," and requested the writer send a second letter with more facts to prove his identity.
Huh.
That's smart.
On August
Yeah.
8th,
He
1 week.
was clever.
So we got this cipher that no one can interpret.
Right.
Oh, a week later, August 8th, 1969, Donald and Betty Harden of Salinas, California, cracked the cryptogram.
Yeah.
So an older couple. I think they were about 80 years old. The letters were all nearly identical. Once they had the cipher, they could decode all three of these cryptograms.
Yeah.
And here's what it said. And it's got a lot of typos in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say what it means, but there are a number of typos in this.
Okay.
I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all. To kill something gives me the most thrilling experience. It is even better than getting your rocks off with a girl. The best part of it is that when I kill, I will be reborn in paradise. And I don't know if it's supposed to be them, maybe. They I have killed. I have killed. It's the
It means
behind
the
the
ones.
Right, the ones I have killed
killed.
will become my slaves. I will not give you my name because you will try to slow down or stop my collecting of slaves for my afterlife.
There's a lot of typical psychology in that note, though, that's typical of a serial killer mindset.
So that was August 8th.
Yeah.
August 7th, the day before this was actually cracked, another letter was received at the Examiner. So maybe the Examiner is where he worked, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
This was the first time the killer had used the name for identification, the name Zodiac. The letter was a response to Stilt's request for more details that would prove he had killed Faraday, Jensen, and Farron. In it, the Zodiac included details about the murders which had not yet been released to the public, as well as a message to the police that when they crack the code, they will have me. So here are the letters that he sent to the Chronicle.
In his handwriting.
In his handwriting, the actual letters that were sent.
Wow.
And so those are difficult to read.
Yeah.
So I've actually pulled them up on my phone so I can read them a little more easily.
What is this at the bottom?
That is the Zodiac
that's the
symbol.
Zodiac symbol, yeah.
So here's what it says. Dear editor, this is the Zodiac speaking. In answer to your asking for more details about the good times I have had in Vallejo, I shall be very happy to supply even more material. By the way, are the police having a good time with the code? Because this is before it was cracked.
Right.
If not, tell them to cheer up. When they do crack it, they will have me. On the 4th of July, so this is the second attacks, I did not open the car door. The window was rolled down already. The boy was originally sitting in the front seat when I began firing. When I fired the first shot at his head, he leaped backwards at the same time, thus spoiling my aim. He ended up on the back seat, then the floor, in back, thrashing out very violently with his legs. That's how I shot him in the... I think it says in the back here. Sorry, I'm going to the next page. In the knee. Sorry. I did have... I can't read this. There's something of this killing with squealing tires. Oh, I did leave the scene. Scene is misspelled. I did leave the scene with squealing tires and revving my engine as described by the Vallejo police. I drove away quite slowly so as not to draw attention to my car. The man who told the police that my skin was brown, I think it says skin, or maybe it says cap or something, was brown, was a Negro, about 40 to 45, rather shabbily dressed. I was at this phone booth having some fun with the Vallejo cops when he was walking by. When I hung the phone up, down, and there's a symbol here I can't quite make out, then began to ring. I think it means like the phone began to ring.
Right.
And this drew his attention to me and my car. Oh, so he said the car was brown, sorry. Last Christmas, so these were the first murders.
Right.
In that episode, the police were wondering as to how I could shoot at them and hit my victims in the dark. They did not openly state this, but implied by saying it was a well-lit night. It was a well-lit night, so the cops said it was a well-lit night.
Yeah.
I could see the silhouettes of the lovers, maybe, I can't see. There's some cursing here, surrounded. And then he goes on to talk about, I'm not going to read this part, it gets a little creepy. He goes to talk about how you can attach a flashlight to a gun.
Yeah.
And he gives some details. All I had to do was spray them as if it was, and I can't read because it gets really light here at the end down there. You can't quite make it out. And then he signs it with that Zodiac symbol and the words "no address."
No address, you think?
Are written there.
How does he figure that man is the easiest prey, though? He's going
says it's
after
most
him in a
dangerous.
car. Well, they're not very dangerous when they're sitting in a car and you're hovering over them with a gun. That's
they're
like
unarmed.
That's like going to the bear cave and throwing dynamite in. It's not a big trick to kill somebody in a car.
No.
Although he did fail. He's 2 for 3 so far.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
remember him having an inconsistent attack record.
Yeah. So that was August 1969. September 27th, 1969.
So just a month and a half later.
Pacific Union College students Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were picnicking at Lake Berryessa. And what I read made it sound like they were on an island that was connected by like a sandbank to like the rest of the park. So they weren't you could get to them, but it was like a nice little isolated spot they were going to. A man approached them wearing a black executioner's type hood with clip-on sunglasses over the eye holes and a bib-like device on his chest that had a white cross circle symbol on it. He approached them with a gun, which Hartnell believed to be a .45. The hooded man claimed to be an escaped convict from a jail with a 2-word name in either Colorado or Montana, where he had killed a guard and stolen a car, explaining that he now needed their car and money to go to Mexico, as the vehicle he'd been driving was too hot. So he's going to take their money and their car keys so he can drive away. He had brought pre-cut links of plastic clothesline and told Cecilia, to tie up Hartnell before he tied her up. The killer checked and tightened Hartnell's bonds after discovering Shepard had left his hands a little loose.
Yeah.
Hartnell initially believed the event to be a weird robbery, but the man drew a knife and stabbed them both repeatedly. The man, Hartnell, suffered 6, and Cecilia Shepard suffered 10 wounds in the process. So that's how many times they were each stabbed.
Yeah.
The killer then hiked 500 yards back to Knoxville Road and drew on Hartnell's car door with a black felt-tip pen. So here is what the car door looked like. It says Vallejo, 12/20/68, 7/4/69. So those are the dates of the first 2 murders. And then this one's September 27th, 69, at 6:30 p.m. by knife.
And there's an enormous penis at the
top.
top.
That's the door handle.
Is that the door handle?
The door handle.
I think it's a penis about to penetrate the Zodiac symbol.
No, it's definitely the door handle.
Which is saying that's what he wanted.
He drew on this on there with black pen.
I almost said it doesn't make sense because it was using the .45. But then if you want to intimidate someone and then stab them to death, that's the gun you're going to use. You'll pull out a hand cannon.
Well, you'll notice he's changing tactics every time.
Every single time.
Even though he used gun in the first 2, it was different gun, different bullets.
Right.
Well, he probably threw the guns away after each time.
Likely.
Yeah.
Which means
he does claim later, and I'm not reading everything because there's a ton of correspondence. Some that we know is his, some that we don't know is his.
Yeah.
He claims that he never left evidence behind unless he wanted to. I think he was faking. Like he was careful about wearing gloves and things like that.
And the shell casings and all that.
So that was 6:30 p.m. At 7:40 p.m., the killer called the Napa County Sheriff's Office from a pay telephone to report his latest crime. You notice it's in a different county.
Right.
Vallejo than Napa. The caller first stated to the operator that he wished to report a murder. No, a double murder. Before stating that he had been the perpetrator of the crime. The phone was found, still off the hook, minutes later at the Napa Car Wash on Main Street in Napa by Cave-On Radio. Reporter Pat Stanley, only a few blocks from the sheriff's office, yet 27 miles from the crime scene. So again, long way from the crime scene, but really close to the sheriff's office. Detectives were able to lift a still wet palm print from the telephone, but were never able to match it to any suspect. Now back to the actual attack.
Yeah.
After hearing their screams for help, a man and his son who were fishing in a nearby cove discovered the victims and summoned help by contacting park rangers. Napa County Sheriff's deputies Dave Collins and Ray Land were the first law enforcement officers to arrive at the crime scene. Cecilia Shepard was conscious when Collins arrived, providing him with a detailed description of the attacker. Hartnell and Shepard were taken to Queen of the Valley Hospital in Napa by ambulance. Cecilia Shepard lapsed into a coma during transport to the hospital and never regained consciousness. She died 2 days later, but Hartnell survived to recount his tale to the press. Napa County Sheriff Detective Ken Narlow, who was assigned to the case from the outset, worked on solving the crime until his retirement from the department in 1987. So almost 20 years.
So he gave his life to working on that case.
And that's something you really get from the movie.
Yeah.
Is the people who are investigating. Not, obviously, you're kind of following most of the movie with Gyllenhaal, the reporter slash cartoonist, but you follow. I don't remember if Narlow was. No, Narlow was not. I don't remember who Narlow was, but we'll get to another guy in a moment who was played by Mark Ruffalo.
Oh, see, I watched this movie when I didn't know who Mark Ruffalo was.
And Robert Downey Jr. is in it as well.
And I knew who he was. I don't remember him
Pre-Avengers, he's actually the reporter that Grace Smith follows around. His name comes up in a moment.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And he's a drug addict.
It's been a long time since I've seen the movie.
It's interesting seeing Robert Downey Jr. playing a drug addict.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
If you were alive in the 80s, you saw him
That's fair.
on drugs all the time.
Yeah.
And you saw him play a drug addict. And if you think Less Than Zero, he was a drug addict.
So that was September 27th, 1969. October 11th, 1969. So just a couple weeks later.
How interesting that he would do like 8 months in between, and then
he's escalating,
and then he's going 1 month.
He needs the fix now.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably what it is. It just seems like it wouldn't take him 6 months. So what happened during that 6 months?
Yeah. This is in Presidio Heights.
Okay.
2 weeks later, after the Lake Berryessa attacks.
And this is San Francisco. Yeah.
A passenger entered Paul Stein's cab at the intersection of Mason and Geary Streets, 1 block west of Union Square. In San Francisco,
requesting to be taken to Washington and Maple Streets in Presidio Heights. For reasons unknown, Stein drove 1 block past Maple to Cherry Street. The passenger then shot Stein once in the head with a 9mm, took Stein's wallet and car keys, and tore away a section of his blood-stained shirt tail. This passenger was observed by 3 teenagers across the street at 9:55 p.m. who called the police while the crime was in progress. They observed a man wiping the cab down before walking away towards the Presidio, 1 block to the north. 2 blocks from the crime scene, Officer Don Falk, I'm going to go with Falk.
We'll go with Falk.
Responded to the call,
F-O-U-C-K?
observed a white man walking along the sidewalk and stepping onto a stairway leading up to the front yard of one of the homes on the north side of the street. The encounter lasted only 5 to 10 seconds. Falk estimated the man to be 35 to 45 years old, while the teenagers who observed the killer in the cab mentioned he was 25 to 30 years old, white male about 5'8 to 5'9. So Falk reported this to the police. The teenagers, reported this to police as well, so cops are on the lookout for this. Unfortunately, the radio dispatcher alerted cops to be on the lookout for a black suspect.
Oh, of course.
So they drove past.
Of course they
So they
did.
drove past.
Jesus.
They drove past Falk's suspect without stopping, even though they were told by Falk he was there. The mix-up in descriptions remains unexplained. The 3 teen witnesses worked with a police artist to prepare a composite sketch of the killer. A few days later, this police artist returned, working with witnesses to prepare a second composite sketch of the killer. This is the one that most people have seen.
Yeah.
Detectives Bill Armstrong and Dave Toschi, which was the Mark Ruffalo character, were assigned to the case. The San Francisco Police Department investigated an estimated 2,500 suspects over a period of years.
Jesus Christ. Even long after the killing stopped, they were going at it.
Oh, yeah. On October 14th, 1969, the Chronicle received another letter from the Zodiac, this time containing a swatch of Paul Stein, the cab driver's shirt tail, as proof he was the killer.
I figured that's why I took that shirt.
It also included a threat about killing school children on a school bus. I'm not going to read that part, but I will read some of this, because it is very unsettling. This is the Zodiac speaking. I am the murderer of the taxi driver over by Washington Street and Maple Street last night. To prove this, here is a blood-stained piece of his shirt. I am the same man who did in the people in the North Bay area, I think is what it says.
Yeah.
The SF police could have caught me last night if they had searched the park properly, instead of holding road races with their motorcycles, seeing who could make the most noise. The cab driver should have just parked their cars and sat there quietly waiting for me to come out of... The car drivers, sorry, not cab drivers. The car drivers should have just parked their cars and sat there quietly waiting for me to come out of cover. And then the next part is where he explains in detail what he would do to a school bus of children. Yeah. At 2 p.m. on October 20th, 1969, someone claiming to be the Zodiac called the Oakland Police Department, demanding that one of 2 prominent lawyers, F. Lee Bailey or Melvin Belly, appeared on the local television show AM San Francisco, hosted by Jim Dunbar. And this is only a couple days, this is less than a week after that last killing.
Yeah.
Bailey, the lawyer, was not available, but Belly did appear on the show. Dunbar appealed to the viewers to keep the lines open, and eventually someone claiming to be the Zodiac called several times and said his name was Sam. Belly agreed to meet with him in Daly City, but the suspect never showed up. Surely there were a bunch of cops there. Well, maybe I'm sure there were cops there too. Like, it wasn't like, even if he had been planning to, he would have seen the cops. And
well, that's when he left San Francisco. Nobody knows it, but that's my theory, that he called all the cops. Like, he called this one guy, said, meet me here, knowing that they would have a bunch of cops there.
Because that's what he did. He would go to the police stations and then tell them to go to the crime scenes. So,
and he'd make a getaway during that point.
Belly was the name of that lawyer. On November 8th, so again a couple weeks later, the Zodiac mailed a card with another cryptogram consisting of 340 characters, which has never been decoded. Numerous solutions have been suggested, but none can be claimed as definitive. December 20th, 1969, exactly 1 year after the murders of David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, the Zodiac mailed a letter to that lawyer, Belly, that included another swatch of the shirt. And the Zodiac said he wanted Belly to help him. Now, according to the movie, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, Belly, the lawyer, was out of town. He actually talked to one of the like servants.
Like paralegal?
No, it was like a attendant, I guess. Okay. Not servant's probably not the right word for it, but an attendant who knew that she had spoken with the Zodiac.
Yeah.
Like, because I think Graves Smith later interviewed her. Now, this next one is not absolutely confirmed, although he did take credit for it.
Okay.
This is a Modesto attack, March 22nd, 1970, so several months later, 3 months later.
Yeah.
On a Sunday in late March, 22-year-old Kathleen Johns packed her infant daughter into a station wagon and left Bernardino, California, to visit her sick mother in Petaluma in the northern part of the state. Kathleen was also 7 months pregnant with a child of her long boyfriend. As she traveled on Highway 132 near Modesto, another vehicle pulled alongside hers, and the driver appeared to signal that Kathleen should pull over. On the side of the road, the driver explained that the back wheel of Kathleen's station wagon was loose, but he promised to fix the problem. Unbeknownst to her, he loosened the lug nuts, and the wheel fell off as Kathleen tried to drive away. The man then offered to drive Kathleen to a gas station, and she accepted. During the ride, the car passed several service stations, but the man did not stop. For about 90 minutes, he drove back and forth along the back roads near Tracy, the city in California.
Yeah.
When Kathleen asked why he was not stopping, he would change the subject. So they were conversing. When the driver finally stopped at an intersection, she jumped out with her daughter and hid in a field. The driver searched for her using his flashlight, telling her he would not hurt her, but eventually giving up. Unable to find her, he got back in the car and drove off. Kathleen hitched a ride to the police station in Patterson. Now, there are a lot of portrayals of what was said and what he threatened to do, but
Right.
when she gave her statement to the sergeant on duty, she noticed the composite sketch of Paul Stein, the cab driver's killer, and recognized him as the man who had abducted her and her child.
No shit.
Fearing he might come back and kill them all, the sergeant had her wait in the dark at a nearby restaurant. When her car was found, it had been gutted and torched.
Oh my
We got back
god.
to it. But I mean, according to the testimonies were a little conflicting. So there's something sketchy about this. Maybe some people were reporting things that weren't true, but it said basically he threatened to hurt her child,
Yeah.
and like in pretty vivid detail what he would do to the child. So that's what led her to jump out of the vehicle, and luckily
Right.
she hid and got away, and they didn't find her. Throughout the spring and summer of 1970, several more pieces of communication attributed to the Zodiac were sent to the Chronicle. In a letter to the Chronicle, postmarked July 24th, 1970, so
My
several...
birthday.
There you go.
Yeah, good job, Zodiac.
How old were you? 1970.
I was -3.
Okay, not there, not quite there yet.
Not quite yet.
So this
Yeah.
is 3 years before you were born.
Yeah.
And
Jeff
this-
had been born. I
Yeah.
had not at this time.
This is when the Zodiac took credit for Kathleen John's abduction, which was in March, so several months later.
Which I was cynical about until she recognized the sketch.
And now he's taking credit for it. In a July 26 letter, multiple days later, the Zodiac paraphrased a song from the Mikado, adding his own lyrics about making a little list of the ways he planned to torture his slaves in paradise. Multiple misspellings in there.
Yeah.
The letter was signed with a large, exaggerated cross circle symbol, the Zodiac symbol,
Yeah.
and a new score. Zodiac 13, the symbol, equals 13. SFPD equals 0. So he's claiming 13 now,
13
even though we
by this
only
point.
have 5 deaths
Yeah.
and 2 that survived, plus an attack that he didn't kill anyone. So he's claiming multiple more deaths that they don't know about.
The Mikado is Gilbert and Sullivan, isn't it?
I don't know.
Is it?
Yeah.
I need to look that up. That's going to
Probably.
bug me until...
A final note at the bottom of the letter stated, P.S. The Mount Diablo code concerns radians plus pound sign inches along the radians. In 1981, this is a decade later, a close examination of the radian hint by Zodiac researcher Gareth Penn led to the discovery that a radian angle, when placed over the map per Zodiac's instructions, pointed to the locations of 2 Zodiac attacks. So he'd given some sort of mathematical clue with angles of radians that showed where he had hinted, maybe would have hinted at other
Okay,
crime
this guy
scenes.
quotes the Mikado, and he's obviously very good with ciphers.
But his
and
spelling is
cryptographs.
awful.
But could that
Unless
be
it's
on
intentional.
purpose? Right. That's the thing. It was by Arthur Sullivan.
Okay.
Gilbert and Sullivan,
Yeah.
the Mikado.
Yeah.
So October 20th, 3 months later,
Yeah.
Chronicle reporter Paul Avery, who this is the Robert Downey Jr. character from the movie,
Okay.
had been covering the Zodiac case, received a Halloween card signed with the letter Z and the Zodiac's cross circle symbol. Handwritten on the card was the note, "Peekaboo, you are doomed." Now that's the only thing that was on there. The rest of it was just a regular Halloween card. And it's quite a card. I saw images of this card. It's supposed to be a cutesy card, but in this
Right.
context, it is really creepy.
Wow.
The threat was taken seriously and received a front-page story on the Chronicle. Soon after receiving this letter, Avery received an anonymous letter alerting him to the similarities between the Zodiac's activities and the unsolved murder of Sherry Jo Bates, which had occurred 4 years earlier at the
No, you're right.
at the City College in Riverside in the greater Los Angeles area, more than 400 miles south of San Francisco. And he reported his findings in the Chronicle on November 16th, 1970.
Well, there were a lot of murders that were unspoken for during these times, and he went several months.
So this letter,
At times.
after the Halloween card, same reporter Paul Avery got a letter, anonymous, not quoted as being the Zodiac, saying you should look into this murder that had happened 2 years before any of the Zodiac murders. And so this is a possible Zodiac killing from October 30th, 1966.
But why would the Zodiac Killer claim these ones that we know about, but not give evidence of
That's
the
a great
others
question.
if he was wanting to be?
Now, we're
Connected
going to
to
get
it.
into the Zodiac taking credit for this one also, after the fact. Did he actually do it? We don't know. 18-year-old Sherry Jo Bates, a student of Riverside Community College, spent the evening at the campus library annex until it closed at 9 p.m. Now, one thing that I kind of thought about maybe is he wouldn't take credit for it if it was linked to him.
Yeah.
So if he knew this
Right.
person or was close to her or maybe even been a suspect in this, he probably wouldn't have taken credit for it.
A lot
if
of
he
times
saw it.
their first murders
Someone they
are,
know.
yeah, there's someone they know. It's a little sloppier
And then they get
than
a
what
taste
they
for
become.
it.
Right.
So, neighbors reported hearing a scream about 10:30. Bates was found dead the next morning a short distance from the library between two abandoned houses slated to be demolished for campus renovations. The wires in her Volkswagen's distributor cabinet had been pulled out. She was brutally beaten and stabbed to death. A man's Timex watch with a torn wristband was found nearby. The watch had stopped at 12:24, but police believe the attack occurred much earlier. A month later, on November 29th, 1966, nearly identical typewritten letters were mailed to the Riverside Police and the Riverside Press Enterprise. Again, 2 years before the Zodiac murders occurred. Providing details of the crime that were not released to the public. The author warned that Bates is not the first, and she will not be the last. In December 1966, a poem was discovered carved into the bottom side of a desktop in the Riverside City College Library, titled "Sick of Living, Unwilling to Die." The poem's language and handwriting resembles that of the Zodiac's letters.
And this would have been 3 years before his attributed
He started in 68. December of 68 was his first, the
68.
Halloween. So
and he was
nearly
mostly described as like mid-20s to late...
around
mid-20s
30.
to 30.
Around 30, yeah.
Interesting.
Well,
He could have been an employee.
Once you
He could have been an
discover
employee at
this
the
evidence
library.
at the school library that says he was a student there.
Right, that's what
Or
I'm
worked
thinking,
there
yeah.
or had access to it.
Interesting.
It was signed with what were assumed to be the initials RH, but were not confirmed because of a little sloppily carved.
Yeah.
During this, back to regular time, during the 1970 investigation, Sherwood Morrill, California's top questioned documents examiner, expressed his opinion that the poem was written by the Zodiac. So this examiner in 1970, once they had this possible link, went back and looked at this carving and said, I think it's the Zodiac,
Yeah.
based on this carving. So back to the Sherry Jo Bates possible killing.
Right.
On October 30th, 1967, so almost a year
Day
after
before
the killing.
Halloween and a year after the killing.
April 30th.
Oh, I thought you said October 30th.
April 30th.
Okay.
But so we're about a year and 6 months or so before, 8 months before the actual first Zodiac killings. Bates's father, the young lady who had been beaten to death, Joseph, the Press Enterprise, and the Riverside Police all received nearly identical letters in a handwritten scrawl. It said, Bates had to die there. Sorry, Bates had to die, there will be more. There's no punctuation, so it's hard to read these sometimes. With a small scribble at the bottom that resembled the letter Z. Her father's copy read, she had to die, there will be more. Instead of using her last name, it just said she.
Yeah.
This time it didn't have the Z signature. So so there was a Z.
Halloween card, if you want
Yeah,
to.
there was a Z attributed, on this text. Although this was before the Zodiac murders happened, so this Z was a year and 10 months before the actual first Zodiac killing. But this letter was signed with the letter Z.
So in a way, he had already developed this character, if you would. I only call it a character because there's that sense of duality with most killers. That who's doing the crime to live with themselves, that
Yeah.
human part of them to live with themselves, they create that character that kills people, much like Zodiac.
Well, and to come up with the letters that were sent in '69, he would have to spend a lot of time on those codes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so he's doing some work in his time. Now we're back to again regular time.
This is an educated person, though. It has to be.
On March 13th, 1971, after Avery's article linking the Zodiac to the Riverside murder, this was the shooting
Yeah.
in the cab driver. Oh, sorry, no, the Riverside murder was the one we just talked about,
Right.
young Bates. The
Yeah,
Zodiac
cab
mailed a
driver.
letter to the Los Angeles Times. In the letter, he credited the police instead of Avery for discovering his Riverside activity, but they are only finding the easy ones. There are a hell of a lot more down there. The connection between Sherry Jo Bates, Riverside, and the Zodiac remains uncertain. Paul Averly and the Riverside Police Department maintained the Bates homicides were not committed by the Zodiac, but did concede some of the Bates letters may have been his work to claim credit falsely. So,
But didn't he give information that most people wouldn't have known?
not about that case.
Oh, okay.
Only the ones that we know were his. That's why we linked them to, because he knew
Yeah.
things about the details. This one, he's just like, good job, you figured it out. But didn't, actually say anything about it. Just the police figured it out, good work for them.
Well, there are other serial killers that have taken credit for things they didn't do. I think Albert Fish took credit for more than what he
Yeah.
was.
Now, I apologize, I may have been mispronouncing this guy. Paul Avery is the name of the reporter.
Yeah.
On March 22nd, so less than a couple weeks later, 2 weeks later, basically, a postcard to the Chronicle addressed to Paul Averly,
Right.
and believed to be from the Zodiac, appeared to claim responsibility for the disappearance of Donna Lass on September 6, 1970. made from a collage of advertisements and magazine lettering. It featured a scene from an advertisement for Forest Pines condominiums and the text, Sierra Club, sought victim 12, peek through the pines, pass Lake Tahoe areas, and around in the snow. Zodiac's crossed circle symbol was in both the place of the usual return address and the lower right section of the front face of the postcard. So he's claiming the disappearance of a woman. It was him as well.
Right.
There's no evidence. They never found the body. Lass was a nurse at the Sahara Tahoe Hotel and Casino. She worked until at 2 a.m. on September 6, 1970, treating her last patient at 1:40 a.m. Later the same day, both Lass's employer and her landlord received phone calls from an unknown male falsely claiming Lass had left town due to a family emergency. She was never found. What appeared to be a gravesite was discovered near the Claire Pan Lodge in Northern California on Sierra Club property, but an excavation yielded only a pair of sunglasses. No evidence has been uncovered to connect the last disappearance with the Zodiac Killer definitively.
So the thing is, they said
He claimed this
stopped
disappearance.
killing.
They found a gravesite, what looked like a gravesite, but there were only sunglasses there, and it didn't even say they knew they were hers.
But how many unsolved murders have they been across the country since then? And he kept switching it up.
So I got
he kept
one
changing
more.
his methods.
His final communications. Okay, this is the end of what we know is the Zodiac.
Yeah.
After that card, the Zodiac remained silent for nearly 3 years. The Chronicle then received a letter from the Zodiac, postmarked January 29th, 1974, praising The Exorcist as, and I've seen this letter, it's some, again, misspellings, but I'll say what it says,
Yeah.
the best satirical comedy that I've ever seen. The letter included a snippet of verse from The Mikado, and it's disturbing as well,
Right.
and an unusual symbol at the bottom that has remained unexplained by researchers. And I spent a lot of time looking at that symbol. It was pretty strange. Zodiac concluded the letter with a new score. Me equals 37, SFPD equals 0. So this is January 29th, 1974, if you want to look up that communication there.
Yeah, I'm just gonna look up Zodiac.
Because
weird
it looks like a
symbol.
series of blotches.
So he claims to have killed another 20 people in the...
Oh, I mean, 20 plus, because again, we only have him confirmed of 5 he killed, 2 he thinks he killed that survived. He claimed Bates, that they're not sure he killed, and he claimed the disappearance of this woman. So we would say 9 at most, that if we want to connect everything plus almost 30 more, 28 more, yeah.
But the distance, most of his work that we're seeing here was done from San Francisco to Los Angeles, which is a huge, huge
Hundreds
mass
of miles.
land. Yeah.
But here's the thing. 3 years have passed, and he stopped communicating during that time.
Yeah, why
which
did
is
he
what's
stop?
crazy.
Yeah.
Because you think if you're compelled, if you have that compulsion
Yeah.
to be caught or to communicate, how did he just stop doing it?
Well, if this was a person that was possibly caught for a lesser crime,
I think
That's
it's
a possibility.
jail.
Which has
That's a
happened.
possibility.
They've spent time in
we're
jail.
gonna talk in a moment about someone who they think might have been him, although it's not confirmed. There were a number of potential Zodiac documents received over the next year, but none have been positively confirmed. So after that last one, there were more that could have been Zodiac, but there were not. No one has positively
right, can't be
confirmed them.
confirmed or anything.
In April 2004, the SFPD marked the case inactive, citing caseload pressure and resource demands, effectively closing the case.
Well,
However,
makes sense.
they reopened their case sometime before March 2007. The case is open in Napa County and in the city of Riverdale. In May 2018, so recently,
Right.
the Vallejo Police Department announced their intention to attempt to collect the Zodiac Killer's DNA from the back of stamps he used during his
But you
correspondence.
said May of this year, May
Oh, yeah.
20th of this.
No,
that
I
was
didn't,
like
I didn't say
days
I didn't
ago.
say a day, but I mean I read a lot of articles.
Oh,
from
I thought
May.
you said May 20th.
No, I
Okay.
didn't say the date, but I mean it was a couple weeks ago. The
Yeah,
articles
we're
were-
still
yeah.
in that month.
Yeah. That they were going to try to catch him using his DNA. The analysis led by a private laboratory is expected to utilize an advanced new technique that is able to separate DNA from the glue present on the back of stamps. It is hoped the Zodiac Killer may be caught in a similar fashion to the Golden State Killer.
Unless he
I'd
just
say he's
used
most likely
water on it.
dead. And that's possible too. Or had his dog
You also have
with
to have
it.
something to compare it to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do they have anything?
They may, what you can occasionally is a profile
Yeah.
from DNA. Like here's what we do know based on the DNA sample.
Right.
So that's all we got on the Zodiac.
That's all we know. And now all the wild card has to do is piece it together and solve this
Well,
mystery.
what I was gonna end with
So-
is here was the favored candidate and some other candidates.
Okay.
Yes, please.
So you know who the favored candidate is. Do you know his name? Do you remember his name?
John Carroll Lynch.
Played the actor.
Right. Who's an
played
amazing actor, by the way. Played
Robert's-
Drew Carey's brother in the Drew Carey show.
Robert Grayson's
Oh,
book
yeah,
Zodiac
he's a
advanced
great
Arthur
actor.
Lee Allen
Arthur Lee Allen, that's right.
as a potential suspect based on circumstantial evidence. So this is who Gyllenhaal's character, the
we kind of
reporter-
harassed him, didn't he? Yeah.
We'll get into that. Allen had been interviewed by police from the early days of the Zodiac investigations and was subject of several search warrants over a 20-year period.
Wow.
In 2007, Graysmith, the author, noted that several police detectives described Allen as the most likely suspect. However, in 2010, Tashi, the Mark Ruffalo character in the movie, stated that all the evidence against Allen ultimately turned out to be negative. That's a direct quote.
Yeah.
On October 6, 1969, so this is not long, in the middle of those first murders,
Right.
Allen was interviewed by Detective John Lynch of the Vallejo Police Department. Allen had been reported in the vicinity of the Lake Berryessa attack, that was the stabbings, against Hartnell and Shepard on September 27, 1969. He described himself scuba diving at Salt Point on the day of the attacks. Allen again came to police attention in 1971 when his friend, Donald Chaney, reported to the police in Manhattan Beach, California, that Allen had spoken of his desire to kill people, use the name Zodiac, and secure a flashlight to a firearm for visibility at night.
Interesting.
According to Chaney, this conversation occurred no later than January 1st, 1969. Jack Mullenix of the Vallejo Police Department subsequently wrote Allen had received an other than honorable discharge from the U.S. Navy in 1958 and had been fired from his job as an elementary school teacher in March 1968. So this is months
that's
before the
creepy.
first killing, after allegations of sexual misconduct with students. He was generally well regarded by those who knew him, but he was also described as fixated on young children and angry at women. He apparently never had a girlfriend or wife. Now, I wonder, looking at these quotes, the fixated on young children and angry at women, how much of that was after the fact?
Right.
Like, after people were starting to accuse him, if they're like, I wondered about him, he always seemed to be
right.
kind of that fill in
How
the
does
blanks.
that taint their
their
memory
memories
of
of
him and all that? That makes sense.
So 3 years later, September 1972.
But the people he was killing weren't children. They weren't
children, right.
Right.
And they were women and men both. It was more couples than it was.
usually
Well,
so. And we'll come back to why
I
that
think
might
maybe
be.
in his letters he had such a glib attitude about murdering children that, and he was so.
I don't know if I don't think I included this or not. It may have been with somebody else. I apologize about this. But if it was not Allen, it was one of the supposed suspects. I read about a lot of them.
Yeah.
They thought it targeted couples because he was jealous, like that he wasn't with people. So he targeted couples.
That could be as
could
well.
be
Well, how
impotence.
many of these happened near diners? Like there were a few of them that happened near restaurants. It seemed at least early on. The first couple had gone to a diner.
Yeah, but they were in
And then
Lovers
went
Lane.
on.
They were on Lovers Lane.
Right.
Park. But
right.
yeah.
But they could have been
Maybe he
stalked
had been-
from
yeah.
that diner, and there was another
My
one
guess
that was,
is he was stalking them well in advance
well, that could be too.
because I think he knew. He knew
That's
father.
probably true.
Yeah.
So September 1972, 3 years after this, 2 years after this investigation, this interview with Allen, San Francisco police obtained a search warrant for Allen's residence. In 1974, 2 years after this, Allen was arrested for committing lewd sex acts upon a 12-year-old boy.
Ew.
He pleaded guilty and served 2 years imprisonment. So there was something to
Well,
those.
he's a horrible person, but it still doesn't.
Vallejo
mean that
police
he's the
served
Zodiac.
another search warrant at Allen's residence in February 1991.
Shit.
2 days after Allen's death in 1992, Vallejo police served another warrant and seized property from his residence.
What
After
did
he
they find?
died.
Does it say what they found?
Nope.
And if it had been anything conclusive, we would
Use
know.
it. Other evidence existed against Allen. A letter sent to the Riverside Police Department from Bates's killer, that first unconfirmed killer from 1966,
Yeah.
was typed with a Royal typewriter with an Elite type, the same brand found during the February 1991 search of Allen's residence before he died. He owned and wore a Zodiac brand wristwatch, which circumstantial, but
Right. Totally circumstantial.
he lived in Vallejo and worked minutes away from where one of the victims, Farron, lived and from where one of the killings took place. So it's like home base could be for him. In 2002, SFPD developed a partial DNA profile from the saliva on stamps and envelopes of Zodiac's letters. SFPD compared this partial DNA to the DNA of Arthur Lee Allen. A DNA comparison was also made with his friend, Don Chaney, former friend who had suggested Allen may be the killer.
Right.
Neither test indicated a match, so they were excluded as the contributors of the DNA, though it cannot be definitively stated that it is DNA from the Zodiac on the envelopes.
Yeah.
However, as of March 2018, they're trying again, and so some
Yeah.
people think they may still use his DNA to try to fuse his substance.
He could have used a stamp pad,
Yeah.
one of those little sponges. He was a smart guy. He made sure
And he
not to leave any
claimed
evidence.
he didn't like after when you remember the shooting in the cab of the cab
Yeah.
driver. Those kids said they saw him wiping down,
Right.
and fingerprints were found there. He claimed he chose to leave that. He wasn't wiping on his prints because he was
Oh my God.
he was leaving this to throw them off. That's what he claimed.
Yeah.
He could have been lying, but that's what he claimed. That he never left anything without meaning to.
And if it was Allen who had been in the Navy, then he would have known they had his fingerprints.
Mm-hmm.
They do that. they need to identify you. And
So he was retired police handwriting expert Lloyd Cunningham, who worked the Zodiac case for decades, added, "They gave me banana boxes of Allen's writing, and none of his writing even came close to the Zodiac.
Yeah.
Nor did DNA extracted from the envelopes on those letters come close to Allen's." When police often use document examiners during investigations, while they often use these, court rulings on the validity of handwriting analysis are mixed to negative. So, and that is true. A lot of forensic science is pretty sketchy. Even DNA analysis can be sketchy. Hair, all those fingerprint techniques you see on CSI, doesn't always hold up because it can be bad. That science can be bad.
Yeah.
So, could the handwriting expert have been wrong? Perhaps, or maybe Allen didn't do it.
Well, I'm curious whether they saw Allen as being an unsavory type. He definitely had his issues.
And there are links between him and some of the killings.
So once you say it's got to be this guy, let's put it together, you'll find any reason
confirmation
to put
bias.
them together, right? And so that doesn't necessarily mean that Allen was it. That meant that they went after him and continued to go after him without looking at other aspects of it.
Well, they probably looked at other aspects.
Yeah.
He
Well, you remember that
just came up more clearly.
San Francisco
than
interviewed
Yeah,
2,500 suspects.
Yeah.
And that was after the policeman got shot. Or it's not policeman. The cab driver got shot.
And it could have been one of those guys.
Could have
Like, the guy was obviously very clever,
All right.
very deceptive.
Here are some more potentials,
Okay.
but they don't come until late.
Okay.
In 2007, a man named Dennis Kaufman claimed that his stepfather Jack Terrence was the Zodiac. Kaufman turned several items over to the FBI, including a hood similar to the one worn by the Zodiac.
The executioner. Hood.
Right.
Yeah.
In the
whole
Lake
island.
Berryessa, yeah.
Yeah.
According to sources, DNA analysis conducted by the FBI on the items were deemed inconclusive in 2010. So it wasn't a definitive no, it was inconclusive. In 2009, a former lawyer named Robert Tarbox, who in August 1975 was disbarred by the California Supreme Court for failure to pay some of his clients, so maybe a little sketchy,
Right.
said that in early 1970s, a merchant mariner walked into his office and confessed to him that he was the Zodiac Killer. The seemingly lucid seaman, whose name Tarbox would not reveal due to confidentiality, described his crimes briefly but persuasively enough to convince Tarbox. The man said he was trying to stop himself from his opportunistic murder spree, but never returned to see Tarbox again. Tarbox took out a full-page ad in the Vallejo Times-Herald that he claimed would clear the name of Arthur Lee Allen as the killer. His only reason for revealing the story 30 years after the fact was to say it's not Allen.
Right. It's to clear his name.
Yeah. Robert Graysmith, the author of several books on the Zodiac, said Tarbox's story was entirely plausible. That this merchant mariner may have been the Zodiac.
Well, I love that the dude has an open mind about it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, he's not fixated. It is Allen.
Right, right.
In February 2014, it was reported that a man named Lewis Joseph Myers had confessed to a friend in 2001 that he was the Zodiac Killer, after learning that he was dying of cirrhosis of the liver. So he knew he was dying, so he confessed to someone that he was the Zodiac. He requested that his friend, Randy Kinney, go to the police upon his death. Myers died in 2002, and this is February 2014.
Yeah.
But Kinney allegedly had difficulties getting officers to cooperate and take the claims seriously. There are several other potential connections between Lewis Joseph Myers and the Zodiac case. He attended the same high schools as victims David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen.
There you go.
He allegedly worked in the same
Yeah.
restaurant as victim Darlene Farron.
There you go.
He also had access to the same sort of military boot whose print was found at the Lake Berryessa crime scene.
Wow.
Furthermore, during the 1971 to 73 period when no Zodiac letters were received, Myers was stationed overseas with the military. Kenny says that Myers confessed he targeted couples because he had a bad breakup with a girlfriend. There's that thing I mentioned earlier.
The angry with women.
Yeah.
That
While,
sounds...
and couples in general, happy couples in general.
Right.
While officers associated with the case are skeptical, they believe the story is credible enough to investigate.
That one really sounds like
That one
the
sounds
most...
more plausible than the others.
That's
Yeah.
absolutely plausible.
That's what we know about the Zodiac Killer.
And
And I have goosebumps all my arms. Like, this creeps me out.
50 years after it happened, it's still the kind
to
of
freak
story
you out.
that freaks people out.
Like, when I was at home alone last night,
Yeah.
typing this up while watching
The Zodiac.
the Zodiac movie on TV,
Yeah.
like, I was so unsettled. In the point where I had to muster up my, like, you're a man, you're fine, there's no one here to hurt you.
Right,
Deal with it. But, like,
right.
I was that off-put by this. And so the reason I wanted this report is because every time I mention the Zodiac as one of my favorite horror movies, you're like, bah.
well,
And I get it. It's not the
my
typical
favorite.
horror movie.
Right.
There's only, like 5 killings in it.
Yeah.
But it's so intense. It's so, maniacal. The mania of the reporters who became embroiled in this. Like, it just...
Well, the way that
The phone
Graysmith
calls,
hounds
the letters,
Alan, that's what
the
got me.
unsolved letters. What is it that the killer thinks they say?
Right.
Yeah.
I think that adds to the chilling aspect because
Yeah.
you look at somebody like the Night Stalker Richard Ramirez, and you're just like, well, fuck you, pal. He's just infuriating.
Yeah.
To be that cocky and that much of a murderous prick. The Zodiac is actually spooky.
Yeah.
In a way, and I don't think every serial killer is spooky.
I agree.
I don't think Ted Bundy was spooky.
Ted Bundy was something.
He was something.
Yeah.
He was something, but he was like Albert Fish. I find spooky because he wrote letters
Yeah.
as well to the parents of his victims saying, "This is how I cooked your child
Yeah.
and ate them." It's that creepy aspect, that taunting aspect. It reminds me of Robin Williams in that movie Insomnia.
Yeah.
Did you ever
Yeah,
see
I
that?
saw
Where
that, yeah.
he says, once you cross the line and commit murder, you become a different human being.
Yeah.
You're a
You
different
lose a
kind
part of
of
yourself
person.
that you can't get back.
Right, exactly. And you crave it after a while.
Did any of these potential
Suspects.
suspects have any background in cryptography or
The
That's a
movie,
good question, isn't it?
explores that. The movie explores that, but and I'll be honest with you, just to be very frank. Almost about half of what I got was from Wikipedia.
Yeah.
The other half was from another website that's like all about the Zodiac Killer.
Right.
So like I couldn't find a lot of like primary sources other than here are the documents. So I read all those documents and then used the Wikipedia and the other one for descriptions of the crimes.
I'll
So I got-
accept Wikipedia. It
Well,
lets you know if there's
the reason I'm on
needs to
Wikipedia
be
is because
cited.
I've gone on there and I've changed things.
Oh, yeah, you've
and it took
told
like
that story.
15 minutes and it was down.
Yeah,
And I went to the Campbellsville University one. Like it wasn't like
right.
I don't know. So I don't let my students cite it, but I do use it for references a lot. But unfortunately,
Yeah.
the references for this one were a lot of FBI documents that were redacted. So I
Right.
couldn't. So that's why I typically try not to use all of Wikipedia, but I did use it more than I normally do. But
Yeah.
now nothing about where the cryptography might have come from. But again, if you watch the movie, Graysmith explores the book where the code came from, that first one. But the cipher changed over time, and so. That's the report on the Zodiac Killer, guys. I
Fascinating.
apologize for how dark it was if it
Fascinating,
creeps me back. I tried to leave out some of the most demented things because if you read through those letters, especially about that school bus, it's
Yeah.
wow.
Phew. So
That's a good report.
Yeah.
We're going back down the wild card, dark,
Yeah.
Dark, wild-
the dark lane.
Well, that's why
we
we-
had all that happy stuff for
Yeah.
a while.
Well,
we were all
there's a-
rainbows and kittens and butterflies.
Well, two episodes ago I did Bob Ross and Mr. Rogers. Last episode I did was movie fight. So I'm like, well, it's been a while since I've gone.
Sometimes it shifts your way. Sometimes
Yeah.
it shifts my way. I am El Diablo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I killed the flower moon with
You
my
did.
last
You did kill
episode.
the
And then I would
There
say
was a
that's
lot of
equally-
murder in that.
His had more murder than mine did.
Yeah,
and
there
it's,
was a
and
lot
it's
more
disturbing
murder.
in a very different way. It's an conspiratorial
Yeah.
way that the system is what's so evil here.
Yeah.
Yeah, these weren't serial killers for the sake of serial
Yeah.
killers.
Profit.
They were
Murder for profit.
Murder for
Completely.
profit.
Right, which is its own sort of dark and twisted.
It's different things. The Zodiac Killer killed because he was compelled to.
Yeah.
He wanted to.
Yeah,
it was a
that's worse.
decision.
Yeah,
The other
that's
guy
worse.
was just greed. Hale was an asshole. He was
Yeah.
greedy.
and he was
but
only one peak of the of this
Right.
group of whatever they were.
corrupt.
Yeah,
Corrupt people.
yeah.
Murdering.
is,
Osage, yeah.
This is a whole different level.
So I would love to hear your all's thoughts on the Zodiac, dickheads. If you if this was too dark and you never want to hear this type of thing again, let us know. If this is what you like, well then
This
you're
is
messed
what
up.
you like. The funny thing is, Wendy Ernst, the Queen of Hearts, and I were
yeah.
talking last night before she shaved my head. No, after she shaved my head. And she was saying, you know what you guys should do? Some unsolved mystery, some dark,
You know I like
unsolved
that.
mystery murder.
I've done multiple of those.
And here we
Well,
are.
here we
You
are.
did
H.H.
Zodiac
Holmes,
Killer
H.H.
the
Holmes
next
is my
day.
other one. We know who he was.
Right.
But I also did the Dial of Past because I think
Yeah.
the mysteries are.
Yeah.
And I've got another mystery I'm going to do eventually. It's just not quite as dark. That I've been like,
You
hold
know
on
the
to.
town that dreaded sundown, the killer the Texarkana killer. I can't remember his name, but it's the one that Jason in Friday 13th Part 2. His burlap sack
Yeah.
was based off of this, and I've always found that one intriguing as well. Again, nobody has any clue
Yeah.
as to who this person was, whatsoever, to my knowledge.
And that obviously makes for an interesting discussion, but it can
Yeah.
make it difficult to find legitimate sources, which is why I think
Right.
this one's so famous, and we've got these primary documents. And man, looking through those, the website had links to all of them. They were
Well, they never figured out who killed the Black Dahlia either, did they?
no. One of the things I read on Wikipedia, one of the possibles was a potential connection to that. Actually,
Yeah. Well, that was years before. The Black Dahlia was during the World War II era, was it not?
I mean, yeah.
40s, maybe 50s at the
I'm
most.
not sure off the top of my head.
But if that guy went to school with those other people, then he
Yeah.
would have been too young to have sawed the Black Dahlia in half.
Well, and that was not that guy who the very last one who had confessed on his deathbed. He was not the one who was connected to Black Dahlia murders. It was another one that I didn't find credible enough to even report on.
God, that last
there
guy
no
was so
evidence.
compelling, so amazingly
And deathbed
compelling.
confession makes sense for someone of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you need to know it was me. Now that you can't catch
Yeah,
me,
he needs to take credit
you need
for
to know
it.
it was me.
Whether he did it or not, I want to find out what this guy's life was like
Yeah.
before, during, after these murders. What was his deal?
And imagine being this friend he's confessing it to.
Yeah.
How long have
Yeah.
you been friends with this guy? And
Yeah.
now he's saying these things to you. And when did he stop?
Right.
Did he stop after 37, or did
That's
he,
the question. Do you ever really know
or
somebody?
was the 37
That's the thing.
an inflated number, or did we just not find
Well,
someone?
he could also gotten physically incapable
Hurt,
of doing
yeah.
it.
That could have been too.
He never, except for that possible clubbing death of a young girl,
Yeah.
he never physically had to overpower anyone.
Right.
Because he he shot them, or the ones he stabbed, they tied themselves up and he tightened it.
Right.
Like, so the 5'8" was the size that it was given by the guy who survived the stabbing. So
Man.
like, not a big guy in terms of height, but bigger in terms of size. So maybe physically not a match for people.
No, and he really never used force. Never.
Well, there's got to be pictures though of this guy who confessed.
Oh yes. The guy who
that,
confessed. Yeah, I didn't find any of that. Yeah.
that would show what he looked like at the age
I might be able to
of
find a
these
picture.
pictures.
I
And
would like to see that.
His name was Louis Joseph Meyer. So I'll pull that up real fast while you plug Annie.
All right, so we are less than 2 weeks out from Annie.
Oh, yeah.
June 8th we will open, and you can come see Ron with his new hairstyle.
8 inches of hair gone. Completely gone in one fell swoop.
You can see Jake Richardson with his new hairstyle.
And I think for another 12 hours, you can see the live footage of my hair getting chopped off, including one with a pair of scissors where they put it in a ponytail and just chopped it off like I was Caroline in 16 Candles when she gets her hair stuck in the door.
Only by the time there'll be more than 16 hours before this is posted.
Oh, damn, that's right. Sorry, guys. Sorry, I forgot we weren't live.
So
My
here is
bad.
on the right here is the sketch that was made of the Zodiac.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
I want to see the guy.
And now this is, I don't know if this is actually him. This is just a website's. Oh, I pushed on a thing I shouldn't have pushed on.
Oh, no. The show is ruined.
And now we go
And
silent.
that's the one that's
here.
potentially what he looked like there.
That's fairly...
But
I
that
can
might
see
not even be him.
that.
This isn't a website. This is just a picture, so it might not be the
Yeah,
truest of
it could be.
things. So
Well, I saw something recently about the D.B. Cooper case.
that was the mystery I was talking
it's
about.
one of my
The
favorites.
thing I was talking about, the next mystery I was going to do was probably going to be that
Yeah,
one.
I love D.B. Cooper. That's one of my
You know
favorite
that one too,
things.
Jeff?
Yep, that's the
But
guy
there was-
who jumped out of their
Yeah.
plane.
There was the guy who had
Somewhere down the road, I'll probably do that, if you
contacted
guys
the investigator in New York and said, the D.B. Cooper was my brother. And they showed the sketches of D.B. Cooper with next to a sketch of this guy's picture, and it was ridiculous. I'm not convinced that the guy who said his brother was
Wasn't
not
him.
D.B. Cooper.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he bought after it. He had lived off of an airplane pilot salary, $150 a week, back during this time period. After D.B. Cooper did his thing, the dude bought a house.
Yeah.
Like, he was spending money after that whole thing. Very intriguing, D.B. Cooper. So that's possibly coming up.
Yeah.
Which I would be thrilled about.
That's
And I've
one
thought
I've
of doing that
it's one I've
myself.
intended to do for a while. It's now that we all have talked about it, I probably won't do it anytime soon. But
Maybe I will.
maybe you
I
will.
don't know.
I've got
I
some other,
have
I've got some
not.
other ones in mind that I've got for my next couple.
Well, there's
so.
no end of topics.
No, I hope not. I hope, and hopefully there's no end of you guys listening and enjoying this. So
Yeah.
we'd love to hear your feedback and any commentary you've got on whether or not you would eat an edible Mr. Potato Head,
Would you? I would.
what
I
your
would eat
favorite
the hell out of
evocative
edible.
songs are,
Right.
and who the Zodiac Killer is.
Who is it? Is it me? Is it Jeff? Is it Jared? The world may never know.
It's not me.
The world knows.
It's not
The world
Jeff.
knows it's not us.
I'm the only one it could
I was
possibly
definitely
Right.
born after those
You're the
codes.
Leo.
So were you.
amongst us, so.
be. I am the Leo. I'm the most capable of murder.
Yeah, but you weren't alive.
Right?
In 68,
I wasn't
69,
alive.
so.
I was the other unsolved murders. I
you
did
go.
mine in the
Oh,
80s,
okay.
and then I got married. I settled down.
Yeah, I was 3 and 68. It couldn't have been me.
Yeah, it could have been you.
You were really talented,
It
man.
could have been, but probably not. Right.
And on the
Only
note
if I'm
of,
Chucky.
on the note of
Right.
three-year-old Jeff killing people. Until next time, stay wild.
Stay wild.
Bite the edge.